Here is an EOA Live La Grande story.
Our local Experimental Aircraft Association chapter, along with the Union County Airport, is going to be holding the Young Eagle Open House fundraiser on August 17th. The aim of this fundraiser is to educate the public about experimental aircrafts and to get interested in aviation. James Hollway, the president of the local EAA chapter, gave us some details about the fundraiser.
My name is James Hollway, and I'm the president of the local EAA chapter. We've had it here about 5 years now. We are people involved in aviation who is, our goal is to promote aviation, to get people aware of their opportunities in it and to allow people to experience it. The EAA is the Experimental Aircraft Association, and I have to elaborate on that a little bit. Experimental is not a bad word. It is, the Experimental Aircraft Association is heavy into nationwide. We're a local chapter of it. They've flown 2.2 million kids just so the kids get an opportunity to experience aviation. They also do antique aircraft. They're heavily involved in legislation. They're heavily involved in manufacturing of new aircraft. And so the entire Experimental Aircraft Associations, the reason they exist is to make aviation safer, better, more affordable. When I was learning to fly, the airport was a very quiet place. I mean, to a point of uncomfortable. And there was nobody to talk to, no one to share experiences with. Learning to fly without somebody to bounce thoughts off of, without somebody to help you through that process is very difficult. Of course, you have an instructor, but the instructor's not there all the time. I would go out to the airport, and now you go out to the airport and there will be somebody in this chapter out there most of the time, and we stop and visit with you. When a new plane shows up on the field, we go and introduce ourselves. We do what we can to help them. We encourage them, which is a major factor in aviation. Learning to fly isn't the easiest thing in the world. You have to be motivated to do it. And having other pilots willing to visit with you, willing to share experiences with you, is very helpful in that. When you have a mechanical problem or you think you have a mechanical problem, having an Experimental Aircraft Association chapter here to ask questions to is extremely helpful. Aviation, you don't get to pull over if the plane breaks down. You can't park on a cloud. We need these planes to be right when they're in the air, and it's very important. And this chapter allows us to share our experiences with each other and share our breakdowns, share things that have happened to us that we need to be looking for in our own aircraft. So there's a lot of benefits to this chapter. On August 17th this year, the EAA chapter, in conjunction with Union County Airport, is going to do an open house. We're going to have all of our personal aircraft on display. We will all be there so that you can ask us questions, so you can learn about our aircraft. One of my personal goals in this event is, as I expressed, experimental. Experimental aircraft is something I want the general public to experience. They are not the general perception of them. They are heavily regulated. They are thoroughly inspected. They're not something that's built in somebody's garage and you take it out and fly it. That's not how this works. The perception of it is that that's how it goes. We want people to come out and see these experimental aircraft so that they can see that they're not poorly constructed. They're very high quality aircraft. They're very safe. And we want you to come out and see general aviation aircraft. Through our Young Eagle program that we do, which is where we take kids from 7 through 17 and we take them for airplane rides. We have an event each year where we take these kids for a ride. Through that program, I've become aware of how little people comprehend aviation. People call and don't know we have an airport, which is a motivating factor for this open house. We want everybody to come out and see their airport. We're doing a pancake breakfast. We're doing a little bit of flying. We'll be raffling off some rides. We have a flight instructor that is coming in so that people can talk to a flight instructor, learn a little about learning to fly. We will have ultralight aircraft. We will have light sport aircraft, general aviation aircraft, and commercial aircraft. And so the Forest Service will be there with their firefighting equipment, their aviation firefighting equipment. I guess that's incorrect, and an aerial firefighting equipment. Life flight has always been a big part of what we're doing. And they will have their aircraft and their helicopter on display and let people see it and experience it. And hopefully we'll have a freighter with a pilot that people can talk to, because that's a very good occupation. There is a huge shortage in the aviation industry. We need radio people, we need electronics, we need pilots, we need technicians. And it seems that the perception of aviation excludes people because they think it's so expensive that you can't do it. So we want you to come out and actually talk to us and see these airplanes. They're not nearly as expensive as people perceive them to be. This is the first year the EAA chapter has put on an open house. There was an open house about 15 years ago, and it was a huge success. We're hoping to have a big success too, so we want all of you to come out and just come out and experience the airport. A lot of people come out when the big tankers are flying. They come out and see the airplanes. We want you to come out and see the rest of the airport. There's a lot of fun to be had out there. There's a lot of things that people could be involved in at the airport that they don't know exists. You know, one of my hopes from this event is that people will come out, and I'll use my plane as a good example. Mine is an experimental. It's a 2-seat, side-by-side, tail-dragging airplane. It is not dangerous. Now, anything is dangerous. Aviation, in fact, is safer than driving a car. However, whenever we hear about an airplane on the news, it's because something went very wrong. I think it's probably good that you don't hear every time a plane goes down, because 90% of them that have an emergency land safely. So, you know, it's like, you know, have a fender bender. You don't get that on the news. We want people to come out and see these aircraft so that they can get a better sense of what they are. Some of the events that should be happening, and of course having this event in August is a little bit awkward. Okay? As you notice, the valley is filling with smoke this morning. If we have fires burning, the Forest Service won't be there. They'll be out fighting fire. Okay? I really would like, if people do get a chance to come out, one of the Forest Service aircraft is called a SEAT, Single Engine Air Tanker. It is a precision retardant dispersing plane. Incredible amount of horsepower, incredible performance, and it can drop its load on a dime. You noticed in Eastern Oregon, we don't have, for the most part, we don't have the major raging fires. Our Forest Service here does an amazing job. We have a pilot who you'll meet if you come to the event, who his job is to go out and look for fires. He gets in his plane, and if there's any report of smoke anywhere, he goes out and he looks it over and determines if it's a campfire or a forest fire. If it's a forest fire, he reports it. They send a tanker out. This guy is so good that he can literally put out a campfire with his plane. And I don't work for them. I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that's why we don't have major fires here. That's why we still have our mountains. You know, they're not burned, is because the Forest Service here in La Grande does an exemplary job. The private pilots here, and this is one of the things you learn when you're flying. When you see tankers in the air, you don't see civilian aircraft in the air with it. They put up flight restrictions on it, which we most certainly honor. We don't want to be in their way. They're doing something important. Okay? One of the other things that when people come out to this, I hope they ask about travel. I often have people ask me, well, do you take your plane to go see your grandkids? Yes, I do. We fly over to Astoria. We fly up to Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene's a little over an hour in my plane. It's a lot of fun. It's beautiful country. It's not everything that you might perceive it to be. Flying is very weather related. You fly up to Coeur d'Alene, you need to be prepared to spend the night. You get up there and a thunderstorm comes in. My little plane can't handle those kind of winds. You stay on the ground, you spend the night, you get up the next morning, you fly home. It's all part of aviation. It's stuff that people never think about. You drive your car up there, you see your grandkids, you come home. Our chapter is specifically aimed at getting younger people in flying. In our local economy and nationally, I'm one of the younger pilots. At 60 years old, I'm not a young pilot, but we don't have young people getting into it. A good friend of mine here in La Grande got a guy to mentor him, one of our members. He is now working in Alaska. He's a commercial pilot in Alaska. In 2 years' time, without going in debt, he managed to get enough flight time and enough experience to land a commercial pilot job. Now, he's not flying airlines, but he has got a commercial license and he's doing commercial flight. That's a really good paying job. I mean, those jobs start at more than 60 a year for beginners. And when you get 15 years in there, you'll be making well over 100 a year. That's pretty good income in La Grande. The aircraft will be there, the breakfast will be there, all of the pilots will be there. Might be able to have these other folks there, the Forest Service. If we don't have a fire, they'll be there. Life Flight will definitely be there, unless they get called out. Well, one of them will be there. I don't know what else to tell you. You get to do a lot of editing. Thank you, Eastern Oregon Live, for allowing me to do this video today. Be sure to check out their page and like their content.